In the annals of history, few events evoke as much fear and fascination as the witch hunts swept across Europe. And in England, the spectre of witchcraft cast a long and chilling shadow over the population. The first recorded witch trial in England dates back to 1566, when two women were accused, which eventually led to their hanging. And the witch hunts continued for centuries. At least 500 persons lost their lives in England alone. 90% of them were women. In the early modern period, superstition and fear of the unknown ran rampant. Amidst this atmosphere of uncertainty, accusations of witchcraft became a powerful tool for settling scores, instilling fear, and maintaining social order. England enacted the Witchcraft Act as early as 1541. Even so, it was repealed 6 years later. Queen Elizabeth I reintroduced it in 1563. James I reformed the law in 1603 to be able to condemn anyone to death who made a pact with Satan. The persecution of witches was fueled by a belief in the supernatural and a fervent desire to root out perceived threats to the Christian faith. Therefore, the Church played a central role in perpetuating these beliefs, preaching sermons that demonized witches and their endorsing trials. As already hinted at, accusations of witchcraft were indiscriminate, targeting women, the elderly, the poor, and anyone perceived as different and or threatening. Once accused, the accused faced a terrifying ordeal, often enduring torture to extract confessions or denunciations of others. Especially feared were the legendary witch trial tests, like the ordeal of water, when accused were bound and thrown into a river or lake. If they sunk, they were innocent, but they still lost their lives. An alternative was the so-called touch test. The belief was that victims of witchcraft would show a physical reaction, like throwing a fit, if they were once again touched by an evildoer. This was to cost Rose Callender and Amy Denny their lives in 1662. They were accused of bewitching of a couple of young girls. The girls were brought into the chamber and were blindfolded. They were touched by anyone present. They threw a fit every time, and not only when they were touched by the accused. But that was still good enough for the court. Callender and Denny were hanged as witches. This demonstrates the punishments for those found guilty of witchcraft were severe. Hanging was the usual form of execution, burning at the stake. The go-to way in other European countries was also used, but only when the accused also committed other crimes by using magic, murder for example. The witch hunts reached their peak during the Civil War, fueled by mass hysteria and religious zealotry. In 1647, a book called The Discovery of Witches, written by Matthew Hopkins, was published, which was used to, in quotation marks, identify witches. Many lives were lost in the following pursuit of imaginary demons and imagined threats. It took until 1735 until the law was reformed to end witch hunts for good. Luckily, the last execution was even earlier, but sadly, the last victims were a mother and her daughter, called Mary and Elizabeth Hicks. The child was only 9 years old. And so, the dark chapter of witch hunts in early modern England serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the human capacity for cruelty. But they also led to the Enlightenment. In that way, they also show that humanity is capable to overcome the darkest chapters of its history.